Hi everyone, this is Kelly with Two Broads Talking Politics. We were going to attempt a live episode. It will be slightly tape delayed. So I am on today with a returning guest. This is Liz Watson. Liz was on last year when she was running for Congress. She is now the executive director of the Congressional Progressive Caucus Center. But today we are talking with her because she is in Texas, down near the border at one of the detention facilities. Hi, Liz.
Hi, Kelly. Thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming back on. So tell me a little bit about this trip, how it came to be, and where exactly you are right now.
Absolutely. So I'm standing on a small strip aside the highway in Clint, Texas, which is just a little ways outside of El Paso. And I'm with a number, let's see, I think there are 7 of us who are part of a loose group of activists called Citizen Presence. And we're at the Border Patrol Station in Clint, Texas, at the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol Station. And this is the Border Patrol Station that was the epicenter of a lot of the worst aspects of the family separation policy and the mistreatment of children and detention. And we're having a vigil. So we're standing out here. Let me just give you guys a visual. We've got candles that we're holding up. We're getting a fair number of folks honking as they drive by, which I think is honking because they agree with us that this is unacceptable. And we all have a bunch of signs. And if it's okay with you, Kelly, maybe I could just ask the folks who are here to tell you the states that they're from, because we actually have 4 states represented, and just say a quick hello.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, awesome. So why don't we start with you, Alyssa? Hi, from New York. So Alyssa is from New York, and she's holding a sign that says, what happened to give me your tired, your poor, your hobbled masses yearning to breathe free? And she drew a beautiful picture of the Statue of Liberty crying. Okay. Hi, I'm Kulsum. I'm from Indiana. And Kulsum has decided, well, actually, my husband, who's a big lawyer dork, decided to make a sign that Kulsum is holding tonight. And it says that any alien who is physically present in the United States may appeal for asylum. And he's pointing out that it is actually in our law that people are allowed to seek asylum, and the Trump administration is violating this law by basically making it impossible.
Yeah.
And?
Hi, I'm James. I'm from Indiana.
Hi, I'm Hannah from Lititz, Pennsylvania.
Hi, I'm Craig from Silver Spring, Maryland.
What does your sign say, Craig?
My sign says, seeking asylum is not a crime.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Jess from Indiana University.
So we've got Pennsylvania, Maryland, New York, and Indiana represented here with Citizen Presence.
And why did you decide to go down now?
Well, I decided to go down because I've been reading the papers. I've been seeing, as everybody has, right, your Twitter feed fills up with the terrible, horrible things that are happening. And Clint really was where a lot of really terrible things happen. Kids sleeping on the floor without blankets, children being cared for by older children, so babies being cared for by 8-year-olds, not having toothpaste or medicine. And I am a parent of 2 kids, and I just can't imagine anybody's kids being treated that way. And if somebody was treating my kids that way, I would want the whole country to show up for them. And we think it's really important that just ordinary folks show up and say, this is not okay. It's not okay that, the policy of our country right now toward migrants is cruelty. And that's showing up in a lot of different ways. The day that we got here was actually, as you probably know, which was on the 21st, was the day that the administration announced that it's going to start detaining families indefinitely. So the response to people saying we don't like family separation is, okay, we'll detain your whole family indefinitely. That is not okay. It's traumatic for children. It's traumatic for families. But that just got announced. So we felt like, we knew what we knew from the headlines, but it is really different to be here. We wanted to help. We wanted to see firsthand what's going on, and we wanted to be able to go back to our communities and tell people what we saw and ask people to get involved and ask people to put the pressure on the administration that we need to bring to bear in order to bring this cruelty to an end. That's why we came.
What have you been able to see? You're right outside the facility right now?
Yeah, we're standing outside the facility. It's really eerie because it looks, I think I'm seeing the first signs of life inside the facility. I see somebody, I think, moving around a silhouette. We do see, some trucks going back and forth. There are a huge number of, from the parking lot, there are a huge number, like hundreds of CBP trucks that we see. But it's very hard to know what's going on inside. And this is one of the really terrible things about what's happening right now is people are getting detained. We don't know where they're going. Kids are getting separated from their families and shuffled around, and people are getting shuffled around. And then the Remain in Mexico policy that the administration has put in place has meant that when people try to come and seek asylum, they're basically immediately told, go back to Mexico, take a number, we'll sit in Juarez for as long as we feel like it. And, they may, because of the metering, there may be 0 to 20 or so folks who are actually allowed to come in and seek asylum and go through that process every day, and the rest are just stranded in Juarez. And that's really a story that we're hearing a lot about when we were here, when we got here. And tonight, we were actually out making sandwiches for people who have been processed here on the U.S. side and are being removed from detention and sent back to Juarez. James, do you want to talk a little bit about that? Well, let me let you hear from some of the other folks if it's okay with you. And
Yeah.
maybe it would be good for you to know, why a college student when do you start college?
We start classes on Monday.
So why somebody's going to, come all the way here when they've got school starting on Monday?
Yeah.
What's important to you, Jim?
Yeah, well, just as students are starting to go back to school, it reminds me of the immense privilege that a lot of citizens in the United States have as students. And seeing children being separated at the border from their family, it just reminds me of how important it is that students around the country, even if you're from a state not along the border, it's still so important for students to stand up for their fellow youthful members of the world who don't have the opportunities that we're afforded here in the United States. So that's why I came down right before school starts, just to make sure that students who are crossing the border from Mexico are also being heard.
And Kelly, while James was talking, a truck came in and the truck came out, but they're behind these, heavy gates, and it's really hard to know what's happening once they go in and out, and it's definitely hard to know who's in there.
Yeah.
We've had a number of conversations with border advocacy organizations, elected officials, et cetera, and I don't think anybody, knows from day to day because the situation is constantly shifting. And that's part of it, right? Is the plan is to make it so difficult, so dangerous, so uncomfortable, and so painful that people just will give up and stop seeking asylum. And the problem is that we're talking about refugees who are fleeing places where they're suffering persecution, and this is what our country does. It's supposed to have. This is what we are supposed to do: is to have a process, a humane process for processing those claims. But what we've seen from our administration is so much inhumanity.
So you said that that some of these migrants are being told to go back to Juarez and wait there indefinitely, and they're not given anything. They have nothing with them except sandwiches that you've packed for them.
So sorry, as you can hear, it just got a little loud. That you were asking what question?
Yeah, so the people who are going back to Juarez, they have essentially nothing with them then, and they're just being asked to wait however long they're being asked to wait without knowing ahead of time.
Yeah. Hi, Kelly. This is Jess. To answer your question, yeah, it's an indefinite wait. I mean, you are given a court summons, but that could take up to months. We've heard recently that the newest migrants entering the border are given court summons that can last all the way up to January or February. So they're being seated into shelters where they have very little, if anything, and the crime.
Some of them can't even get into shelters.
Right, yeah, and if you're out on the street, it just gets worse and worse. The crime rate in Juarez is high enough where any money or material that you have can be stolen from you at any time.
So Juarez has gotten pretty dangerous for the migrants who are there, and migrants are so worried that they're going to have to sleep out on the street, and they're worried about homicide rate, they're worried about getting raped, they're worried, for their lives, and this is what the U.S. is subjecting them to by turning them back and then locking them in without any concern about the conditions, that they're being basically summarily dumped into.
And presumably it's, for some of them, equally dangerous to turn around and try to go back to their home countries that's why they were leaving in the first place.
Yeah. So we're piecing together what we're hearing. I mean, some people are giving up and making the journey back. They usually, in many of these cases, they had to pay a ton of money to be able to get up here, so they don't have anything left, and they're trying somehow to get back. But the reality is, a lot of these people, I mean, you think about it, they're fleeing persecution and they're trying to get somewhere where they can make a decent life for themselves and their families and be safe. And the United States is saying, we don't care. And we think, I think everybody in this group thinks, it reflects the policy, frankly, that's targeting people of color. It reflects the white supremacists thinking that they can hold in the United States. It's really ugly. It's really wrong. And, we think it's important for ordinary citizens to stand up and speak out. And that's what this group, Citizen Presence, is all about. Would you mind if Kulsum told you just a second about what Citizen Presence is and how we all ended up here with them?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Hi, this is Kulsum. So Citizens Presence is an organization that is really empowering not activists, not politicians, but regular people to come out to the border and see what's happening for themselves and to take that back to their own bubbles, to their own communities, and share what's happening. Because a lot of times, I know it from my own personal experience, you read what's on the news and you try and share it, but a lot of people are sheltered from what's really happening. And when someone you know is actually talking about it and they're there, I think a lot more people are unfortunately or fortunately so, they're more willing to listen to what's happening and care.
Mm-hmm.
Kelly, I think that one of the most wonderful things that we've seen down here is how this community is pulling together, and you see what American values are all about on display in full force, with so many community organizations, so many individual people who are just, banding together and going, whether it's to Juarez to bring food and water and diapers and whatever folks' shoelaces, because they take their shoelaces away, to people when they land in Juarez. And the folks here, today we met with the Border Network for Human Rights, who have been organizing the community to try to call for more accountability with the border agents and to stop the human rights abuses. They've organized 1,000 families to participate in this family network, and they said to me, we're not, we don't want people to think of us as victims. We are people who are coming together and we're claiming our power, and we're saying this is not okay, and our communities are standing strong here in El Paso. So that story is a really beautiful one, and when you just really. And it's not just El Pasoans, people coming in from across the country, and this is who we are, right? This is who we are as a nation, and it's who we need to be. So that's probably been one of the major highlights of this trip.
Yeah. Are there concerns about the health of the migrants? I know, there's in the news now that they're not going to be getting flu shots when they're in detention facilities. I have to imagine that the situation in Juarez could mean disease spreading pretty rapidly.
We're really concerned about that. You know, if we got folks in detention, it's an obligation of the United States to keep them in conditions. And the only thing that they're not going to get flu shots. I mean, I think it's just another example, you know, of the administration's plan to make it so horrendous for people that come here that they effectively, you know, deter people from doing it. But I'll tell you what, people do keep coming back, and they do keep coming back. And when this is an option, when this is the place where they have a chance to make a decent life for their families and they're being persecuted in their countries, they're going to keep coming, and we have to figure out a humane way to process refugee claims.
Yeah.
So I'm Jewish. My husband's Jewish. We have family who was able to come here before the persecution started in Nazi Germany, and now we're here. And I have family members who perished who didn't come. This is real. We have an obligation as a nation to take these asylum claims seriously and not to just, you know, do whatever we can to wash our hands of people. So I'm actually standing here with Craig.
Hi.
You know, another thing that we did while we were here, when you think about, so Craig is that husband I was just talking about, that we did is we went to the site of the terrorist attack, to the memorial for the mass shooting, and it was just another one of those amazing community expressions. Craig, do you want to say a little bit about what we saw there?
Oh yeah, there's just such an outpouring of love, and you could just tell from the personalized memorials to each one of the people who was lost that they had support in the community, and there's such individual tributes to each and every one of them. It's so touching. There's also a piece of art, like the flowers and the jewelry and the personal effects and stuffed animals and candles, and there's so much love in that community. And I just think anyone could benefit from coming down to El Paso. I've never been here before, and I've just been overwhelmed by what an amazing place it is. I believe it's 81% Latino and Hispanic, and so it's an example of what, you know, our relationship with Mexico has meant in the United States, because, you know, this is a very integrated community, and it's not a question of, you know, keep one people on one side and one people on the other. Yeah. El Paso and Juarez are really one community, and it's really a shame that, you know, it's been done in militarizing the border right in the middle of this fairly integrated community.
There's this massive eyesore, and you know, and just a reminder of, you know, this situation where we're criminalizing migrants, and you know, this is one people here between Juarez and El Paso, and they think of themselves, you know, as linked. Today we went to this amazing park, Shanizal, which is right on the border and commemorates the shared history and the peace between Juarez and El Paso. And they were having a tribute, talking about their shared history and a tribute to shared leaders. And it was just, you know, the cognitive dissonance between seeing that and what is happening here and the policies that are being of hatred and white supremacy that are being put in place was pretty hard to take.
Yeah. What would you like everyone who's listening to do? What are some actions that we can be taking?
So, you know, if you have time, I think being able to actually come to a border city, if you're, you know, I'm from Indiana right now, we're living on the East Coast, and we have had no experience of what it's really like on the border. See it for yourself, be able to talk to your friends, talk to people in the community. There are opportunities to volunteer. And then, of course, I mean, the reality is, right, that there are these amazing organizations, these amazing nonprofits that we've had the opportunity to meet with who need support, who need help. The shelters are just bursting at the seams. The folks who are making, you know, tonight we were making sandwiches, we were stopping and buying all kinds of non-perishables to take to folks who are just being dumped out with nothing. So make a donation. I'll go ahead, Kelly, and post when I get home a list of resources, places where people can donate, and I'll tag you. And they can come with Citizen Presence, which is a pretty awesome DIY activist organization that is basically saying, regular folks from across the country, there is something you can do. You can make your voice heard. And I do think that these are a lot of little drops in the bucket. And that at a time like this, when you have an administration that's trying to normalize hatred, that's trying to normalize white supremacy, that's trying to normalize criminalizing people who are fleeing persecution, it's really important for all of us to say this is not normal. And so this is the way to do that. Yeah. So we have, yeah?
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to mention, so my friend Hannah, this was really interesting. I decided to come. I just posted on Facebook, does anybody want to come? And a whole bunch of people reached out and said, yes, we want to go, we want to do this. And Hannah is one. She is a mom and a small business owner from Pennsylvania, and originally from Kansas. And she's holding a sign right now, Kelly, that I love that says, Hannah, what does your sign say?
It says, stop treating humans like garbage. And I truly believe that is what's happening down here. And we're not just talking about in Mexico. We're talking on the American soil. We are treating families, children. And I'll tell a story today that is haunting me, and I'm not sure how I can take this back to Pennsylvania. But we were told that the agents have PTSD from the children crying. And I just can't imagine a child just crying for so long. And the agents, some of these agents have hearts. We can't say that they don't love people and love children. This is their job. They were forced to warehouse, hundreds and hundreds of people in cases that fit a fraction. So that's something that haunts me, and I'm going to take that back with me and say, hey, look, we need to be treating these people humanely. We need to be loving them. And I'm not sure how we got to this point other than, our current administration just dragging us down. So another thing that we can do is we can talk to our elected leaders, call them, email them, say, hey, look, this needs to change.
That's right. And we have the opportunity to call for a lot more humanity in the way that we're treating people who are coming to the United States. The U.S., and I'm not an immigration expert, but we have had policies in the past, like the family case management system, where we allow people to be released to family members to await their court date. And honestly, Kelly, why would you not do that? Because that means that taxpayer dollars are not being spent. It's very expensive. A lot of money is going to private contractors in a lot of cases to run these terrible facilities. You're not spending those private contractor dollars. They're cared for better in the hands of their family. And the data on the family case management system show that people showed up for their court date. So it's effective, it's humane, and it saves money. I mean, why isn't the government doing that? Why are they going to these great lengths to put people in places that are just absolutely cruel? And now, rather than that, in some cases, I mean, it's really sort of hard to get a grip on exactly what's happening at any given time. It's really constantly moving. But, there's people who are in detention. There's some people who are released to sponsors in the United States. There's a lot of people who are being sent back to Mexico to just wait indefinitely. And that's true in border towns all across our border. And so, we actually tried to go today to the immigration court, which they're now calling the MPP court after the very poorly misnamed migrant protection policy, which actually puts migrants in severe danger, right? And I think that they had 125 people this morning, 200 tomorrow, and they wouldn't let us in. So, it is really important that we continue to bear witness, and that particular thing, calling attention to what's happening and refusing to look away. I told myself when Trump took office that I was going to try to continue to be vigilant, and I wasn't going to let this become the new normal. And it's hard, we all sort of get into our own little bubbles. And for me, my kids and my insane dog, and work and whatever else is, trying once in a while to exercise. And it's very easy to, kind of forget on a daily basis how much people are suffering and the suffering that is being, at the hands of our administration, and we can't forget. And we have to remember, and we have to shine a light. And so, look, there's so many people here who are doing amazing work, and, we're just parachuting in for a couple of days. But I think however people can continue to lift up this issue and continue to demand change, as Hannah said, demand that your elected officials make change, demand that the Trump administration make change.
Yeah, I'm so moved just listening to the stories you guys are telling. I can't imagine what it's like to be there, and I'm so glad that you guys are there and, as you said, bearing witness and seeing it and experiencing it and being able to bring it back to your communities. So I'm very thankful that you're there and that you're talking to us and helping us learn a little more and feel a little more. I think we all sort of intellectually know what's going on, but having sort of the emotional impact of that.
It's in many ways it's really incredibly sad. The stories that we're hearing, and we're hearing them kind of all the time, stories of husbands who've been separated from wives because they've been deported, and from daughters and sons. Stories of, I talked to a couple of teenagers yesterday who said, in all of our families, there's a mixed status, right, in terms of people's papers, and we're all so worried for our family members, and and we were made right in the middle of all of this, and this was ground zero of a lot of the Trump administration, first family separation and then migrant protection policy, and immediately, a lot of that stuff was rolled out here. And, so they're dealing with all of that. And then what happens, right? There's a terrorist attack on their community. There's the ICE raids in Mississippi. Folks here deserve better. But I'll tell you that this is a community that is strong and resilient. And that is a message that we heard over and over and over again. And we've seen that here. And I know that they are going to get through this.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you guys for talking to me tonight, and thanks so much for everything that you are all doing, and we'll make sure we're amplifying the post you're making on Twitter as well, and then, if you send that list of resources, we'll be sure that people get that.
Okay, that sounds wonderful. And Kelly, thanks so much for the work that you do. Congratulations on Demcast. That's awesome. And we will definitely send the resources your way.
All right.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you, all of you. Thanks so much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.